Hello everyone, I am so happy to see you. According to YouTube analytics, over 70% of you guys are not subscribed to the channel. If you guys want Pugsley to eat this month, I suggest you do so. Enjoy the video guys, I'll love you guys forever and always. Hello everyone and welcome to the Season 14 Gnar guide. In this guide we'll be talking about many things. I'm going to try to make it as detailed as possible. On the video you can see where you want to go, like items, runes, the builds. So you can click on the timestamps on the videos to go where you want to go. So I guess I shall introduce myself since this is a guide. Hello, my name is Isaac, better known as Pugsley. I've been playing Gnar since around season 9. I'm I guess a little bit fairly new still, I guess. I'm getting up there in years still playing this game. But yeah, I peaked Master last season and I ended Diamond 1. So I'm just going to give you my best tips and tricks with Gnar. And yeah, let's get straight in the video so I can help you guys with your Season 14 climb. Alright, so first we will be going over the items. Like I said, there are timestamps on the video if you want to go straight to gameplay if you don't really care about the build. But I will be spending some time on this since items just got updated. There's a lot of new things, so I want to spend a little bit of time on this. I've played a few games and I basically get the idea now. I'm sure things will change, but for the most part, I think this will be mainly what we'll be building. It's pretty similar to last season, but with little changes. So let's get straight into it. So for starting items, it's basically the same. You're either gonna build D-Blade or D-Shield. D-Blade did get a tiny change. You do get 3.5% lifesteal, but you still gain Omnivamp. So I think is that a little bit better than? I don't know. No matter what, we're still going to be building this, and then you can build D-Shield if you prefer it against poke champions. I have been seeing that ranged top lane is making a little bit of a comeback, so D-Shield could honestly be really good this season. And then of course your health pot. And then yeah, I don't think we can really go cold first anymore because of how they buffed these two items recently. Like you get 10 AD, 100 health, like it's just too much value now to go Cole or go a longsword. So yeah, these are your basic starting items. So here's the first back options. I'm sure there's many different things you could build situationally, like a Bramble Vest or healing reduction, but I think these are like the main things you should build on your first back. My favorite first back of all time still is Cole and Boots. I think 750 gold is perfect. I think Cole combined with D-Blade, I've said this many times, is broken because, believe it or not, it gives more stats than a Vampire Acceptor. You get the same, or you get more lifesteal now actually, because you get 3 health on hit on this and you get 3.5 with D-Blade. Well no, it's 6.5 still, never mind, I don't know what I'm saying. But it's pretty much like a Vampire Acceptor, and then you get more damage. You get 10 AD, 7 attack damage, so if you go D-Blade first and then buy Cole on your first back, it's excellent, and then you get free gold with it. So that's why I think it's the same or better than a Vampire Acceptor. And then with Gnar, you have low sustain, low health early. Like your only sustain is what you take with your runes and what you build. There's not really anything in Gnar's kit that gives you sustain, so it just feels nice to get that extra health on hit. Like 10 autos will heal you 60 to 70 HP, so when building Cole. And then, like I said, it's gonna turn into free gold 10 to 20 minutes later, depending on how well you CS, so very, very good item. Then of course, boots are essential. I like to build these first most of the time because getting movement speed on Gnar early is very, very good to help you kite in mini Gnar. I prefer playing Steel Cats over Merc Treads, but whenever you do new Tenacity, just build Merc Treads first. And then first back options, we actually have Phage here now because Phage did get a little change. You do get movement speed whenever you attack, just like Axe gave before. And then you get damage health, basically everything you need. I think this is the perfect starting item. And then Axe got changed a little bit. Of course, it does not have the movement speed on hit anymore, so you just get base attack damage, attack speed, which is really good. But I would still prefer Phage over it, but it just depends on preference on what you would like more. And then here is Sheen. I think Sheen deserved to get bumped up 300 gold. You do get some ability haste with it now, but I think 1,000 gold is definitely a fair price for Sheen now, considering how broken it was before. So honestly, whatever you prefer out of these, that's what you should build first. But I think I would prefer Phage just because the movement speed is broken and then you get the HP and damage that you need for lane early. And then of course, refill pots just whenever you have the gold to buy it, and then always control wards as well. I don't see enough people buying these. I sometimes don't buy them when I'm playing for fun, but in ranked, definitely buy these just whenever you can. Just getting vision is important, so you get reaction time to the jungler, or you can just spot enemies. It's just very, very good. It may seem like simple and like, yeah, I know, but actually just buying more wards and placing them will help you tremendously if you look at the map. Alright, after starting items, we have core items. So if you looked at my last guide, this is the same exact items I have for my core items. And that's because these are Gnar's main items, basically. Not much really changed. Like, Trinity Force is technically a little bit weaker because it doesn't have its mythic passives anymore, but we still have all the stats we need. We have damage, attack speed, health, ability haste, we still have a Sheen proc, and we still get movement speed on hit. We don't have like the stacking damage anymore, or we don't have the stacking mythic passives anymore, but honestly, this is still good enough. I'm pretty sure Trinity Force is going to be one of the most broken bruiser items, patch 14.1. I don't know if they'll nerf it later on in the season, but this is definitely the go-to item right now, currently. And I can explain why. It's just like the tempo that you get with this item. You will not get as much tempo with any other item except for Trinity Force. Like, Sheen proc is broken, and the pace and tempo you get with it is just amazing. Perfect stats on Gnar. There won't be a better item other than that unless they remove it or nerf it heavily or add something broken. Okay, next is Black Cleaver. Cleaver still gives insane amount of damage, insane amount of health, and the ability haste you need. It gives you the movement speed still, and it still gives you carves, so pretty much the most standard item on Gnar. This is what we built before mythic items were a thing. We built this first with Frozen Mallet. So Black Cleaver still in the build, probably will always still be in the build, and I explained that it's best to build whenever you need armor reduction against champs that build armor, or if your team is AD and they could benefit from Black Cleaver, this is very good as well. That's just the basics of Black Cleaver. So I think there's a chance we could even build this first sometimes, but I just think Trinity gives too much tempo, but I could see the argument for building Black Cleaver first. Next is Sterak's. Sterak's got changed a little bit, I think, but it's basically the same. We get health and tenacity for the base, and then we gain bonus attack damage. Just basically what you need. Damage, health, and then the shield is perfect. Like, I think I love to build this against bursty champions, and whenever you don't really need to build Cleaver second, this can really help you against assassins, mages, anything that can burst you down in general. And then they added tenacity recently, so that's cool, and then the size is also fun as well. Riot did add tenacities to some items, which is very good. I feel like there needs to be a little bit tenacity, especially after they nerfed a lot of tenacity things last season. So Sterak's Gauge is a pretty good option as well for a core item. Next is Hullbreaker. Hullbreaker is still in the game, and you can actually deal more damage with the champions with this, so I still think it's going to be just as good. Basically, with the Skipper passive, every 5th basic attack against champions or even monsters deals more damage, and even against structures. I guess this is kind of to balance it out, like, because you just get a ton of damage on towers if you're alone, but now you'll just do damage to everything on the 5th attack. So I guess that's how they're trying to balance it out. But boarding parties is still a thing, so your minions are going to get bonus magic resist and armor, so it's just still going to be really good for split pushing in general. So, and then even if you don't get the boarding party passive, then you still get 65 AD, 350 health, and movement speed. So just the stats that Gnars needs, so very good split pushing option. After core items, we have armor. There's a little bit of changes here since there's no more mythics anymore. I'll start with Guardian's Angel. I think Guardian's Angel is still very, very reliable because of the rebirth passive. Anytime that you can revive and have a second chance is going to be really good. And then it just gives you the basic attack, damage, and armor that you need. So if you're ahead or you're pretty late game, I just think this is a good buy. 3rd, 4th, 5th item just whenever you need it and you need a little bit of armor. Next is Randuin's. Randuin's is very reliable as well because it gives you the health armor that you need. It reduces damage against attacks, which is very good since there's a lot of auto attacking in the game, of course. And then I think it's really good against chance with crit, obviously, because critical strikes deal less damage to you. Before, you used to have to time the activation on the champion to get less damage from crits, but no longer anymore. It just deals less damage now. And then you still have the slow, so it's still very good. I think it's amazing against crit ADCs. And yeah, just very reliable armor item. I prefer this over Frozen Heart. Someone was talking to me about Frozen Heart, but I simply just think Randuin's would be more valuable because this gives you mana. Sure, the attack speed would be cool, but I think reducing the crits will just be more valuable, especially since you don't get any health with this item, and health is crucial in Gnar, in my opinion, since we are one of the squishiest champs in the game without building HP. Anyways, let's go straight to Thornmail. Thornmail, just basically whenever you need healing reduction, grievous wounds, you just build this. You can even just build a Bramble's Vest and get the healing reduction, but if you need to build it fully, you just get that extra armor, extra health. Pretty reliable grievous wounds item. Desmond's play, it hasn't been the best. It's been okay like the couple seasons, but I think it has not been the same ever since they nerfed it like a couple seasons ago. I can't remember the exact season, but it's still decent. I think the movement speed is very good for catching out people. It just doesn't give like the best stats to other armor items, but if you think you can use the movement speed effect pretty well, then you can build it. And obviously you would build this against champs with movement speed, or against champs you need to catch up to. It's kind of hard to explain, but I hope you get what I mean. Next is Iceborne Gauntlet. Now this item got a little bit of changes just on the stats, but it still gives you the health, armor, and ability haste, and it still has a sheen proc. So yeah, honestly, this is still a good sheen item, but I honestly should put this in situational, because there shouldn't really be a situation where you build this over Trinity Force unless the team's like full AD, enemy team's full AD, but I'll put this as an armor option just in case you do not like Trinity Force. And I could see this being like a similar thing to Frozen Mallet, where you just build this and Cleaver together. So if you have a preference towards that, you can build it, but I would still recommend Trinity Force. And then lastly, I know Jack Shell's armor and magic resist, but this does just give you the health, armor, and resistances that you need. And then the Voidborn Resilience passive is also really good because you just get bonus armor, magic resist. So yeah, this is a good armor and MR item. Just like third, fourth, fifth item whenever you need like that extra tankiness in the mid to late game. Okay, now we go to magic resist. I've already talked about Jack Shell. With Zendis here, it doesn't give you the flat damage anymore, but I still think it's a good snowball item for the price, because this used to be what, like 3,200, 3,100, I forgot how much it was in season 13, but they reduced it by a couple hundred gold. You still get the attack speed and the magic resist you need. You still get the magic damage on hit, and then they added tenacity and they took away the damage. So I still think this is a decent snowball item. Like, I would still build this against a Mordekaiser if I'm ahead. I'll still build this against AP champs, but I think it is better when snowballing. If you just want the casual magic resistance, the more reliable magic resistance, then Force of Nature is probably one of the better options. I personally do not like it the most, but it does give you the things you need: health, magic resist, movement speed, and then whenever you stack, you get more movement speed, you get more magic resist, so it's just one of the more standard magic resist items. And then here's the new item, Kainic Rokrin. You get basically the health, the magic resist you need. You even get base health regen, and then you get a magic shield, which is crazy. I think this is one of the better MR items that they have added recently. We haven't really had any MR items, but now this adds another option, which I'm very happy about. I will have to test this a little bit, but I'm sure this will be a viable option. Next is Spirit Visage. I love to build Spirit Visage with Asterax. Against bursty comps, it's really good, especially against mages, because of course you get the magic resist, and then if you build it with Sterax, you just get an amazing shield. You can't get one shot by pretty much anything if you have those two items, so very, very good, reliable item with that. And then I've already talked about Jack Shell, so let's go to situational items. So the next 2 or 3 parts of the items, they're going to be like kind of things that you can build, but maybe you should stick to building the other things. Right here is situational, so you can build these. So Sunder and Sky, this is basically very similar to Divine Sunder, except you do not have the Sheen proc. Instead, you have like the striking effect where you do crit damage and then you heal. I think that's how it works. It doesn't show right here. It's kind of bugged, but it gives health, damage, and ability haste, I believe. I kind of forget, but that's what I assume from the build path. Yeah, it's basically a little bit weaker version of Divine Sunder, but I could still people running this if they're snowballing, or if they would prefer this over Trinity Force. You can build this with Trinity Force, I guess. I'm going to have to do some testing with this, but I want to say it's situational, and we'll see if it is good against tanks like Divine Sunderer was. Next is Heartsteel. If you're the kind of player that likes to play for tankiness and play for more stats, then Heartsteel is very, very fun. I definitely would not recommend high elo, but I think low elo this could be a really good item, especially if games last longer, because you could get 700 to 1,000 stacks of this and then you're insanely tanky with Gnar and you also do a ton of damage. So I could see this being a very, very good item like that if you're ahead early. And then of course, if you've seen from the last season, I abuse this a ton against full AD or full AP teams. If they mess up the draft, you could build this, and then there's a ton of MR and armor items that you can build now to abuse this and get easy games with. But if you're focused on climbing, just stick with Trinity Cleaver, Trinity Sterax. But if you want to try something a little bit new, you can go Heartsteel, you can try that. I will be doing a lot of for fun videos on it, so stay tuned in the future if you want to see how I build this. Next is Strikebreaker. Strikebreaker no longer a mythic, so just like Heartsteel, no more mythics in the game. So basically, a little bit of difference that has, you get decaying movement speed, so I could see this definitely being a viable option. Of course, it doesn't have the dash anymore. We've went over this many times. No more dash on Strikebreaker, RIP. But it still just gives you the basic stats you need. You still do not get the tempo with the same as Trinity with this still, sadly. But I definitely think there's situations where you could build this. I think a good example is Yasuo, just to slow them down, especially since they dash everywhere. Just any champs that you need to slow, I could see it being good against Nasus. There's like many different situations where you could use the slow, but I would still prefer Trinity. But if you have a preference for Strikebreaker, then go for it. Maul, I don't really like Maul the best. I prefer Sterax, but if you're going against majority AP team, then I could see this being very, very good. And then Lifeline also isn't the worst. Omnivamp is nice. And then of course the shield is one of the reasons why we do build it. But yeah, I would prefer Sterax, but you know, situational. Kimplunk Chainsword, I think this is very good if you cannot build Thornmail and you just need healing reduction. I love to build it against like an Aatrox. Irelia is a good example. Fiora, Warwick, just anything that heals. And you would rather build an AD item rather than a Thornmail. Now, I might seem weird seeing Runon's Hurricane here, but I think when snowballing it's really good, but I think the main situation you should build it in is whenever your base is getting taken and your team does not have much wave clear. I think this is the only way you can stay in the game without them ending it, because in mini Gnar you can take waves extremely fast if you have Runon's Hurricane, and then at least you have a chance to continue the game. But only build this in that situation whenever your inhib towers are down, your inhibs are about to get taken. This is the only part I would build it in. I still think it's an amazing on-hit effect with Rage Blade and Titanic Hydra, but we'll get to that later. So yeah, you don't worry about Runon's Hurricane that much, but in certain situations it can technically be your only chance to win, so that is why I put it here situational. It's one of my favorite items, so I sometimes build it. Anathema's Chains. This item also is very situational, just whenever an enemy team has extreme hyper carry and you feel like the only chance to kill them is to get that extended CC on them, because you know they get the reduced tenacity, you reduce damage against them. It's basically the only time you should really build it. I guess you could technically build it to make someone's life just not the best in the game, but it's probably just better to build other items. Sadly, they removed the Bruiser item to QSS, so I guess the only time we should be building this is whenever we really need the cleanse or whatever it's called, the CC removing thing. But I guess if we're really desperate and we need to build our last item, I guess we could build into this. I would not recommend it though. But yeah, if you just need to get rid of that CC, this is decent. It's definitely not as good as before since they did remove the Bruiser item. I forgot what it was called, but rip that. And then the last situational item I have on here, it's Swifties. I like to go this against any champs that have extreme slows or abilities that slow you a ton. Greatest examples are Aatrox, Nasus, Darius, Trundle. Pretty much any champ that has a slow will take Ghost or will just chase you down in lane. This will definitely help you get away and kite since it does remove slows. But I think the greatest champs to go this against are definitely Aatrox and Nasus. So this is the first time I'm including a maybe section because I'm not 100% sure yet. I don't know how the meta will change throughout the season, but I could see a world where these items could be built on Gnar in certain situations. Terminus I have at the top of the list because This could be honestly a very good on-hit snowball item because it gives us the basic damage and attack speed that we need. It gives us the magic damage that we need. And then you get the passive where in between attacks you get armor, magic resist, armor penetration, and magic penetration. Of course, it only lasts for 5 seconds, but if you're in an extended fight, this could make you so tanky, help you deal so much damage. So I could honestly see this being a very, very good snowball item. I'm putting in the maybe section now because I do need to test it more, but we definitely will see if this would be a very good option. So if you feel like building it, then you can go ahead and go for it. Death Stance, as always, Death Stance is just a reliable armor item. However, this time I'm not 100% sure. It's not as good as it used to be in my opinion. I think Guardian's Angel is just a more reliable armor item, but it still has the Ignore Pain passive, and then it still gives you the healing effect over time if you kill the champion. So it could still be up there, but I personally do not like it. That's why I put it under maybe. Spear Shojin is definitely an item I do not like the best, but I see so many people, especially you guys, talking about it, how Spear Shojin is actually good on Gnar. I personally do not like it, but I'm just gonna put it here for you guys. It did get a little bit changed, like spells that you hit grant stacks and you deal more damage, which is one reason why I put it here. So maybe there is a world where we could stack it similar to Conqueror and just do a ton of damage, but personally not for me, but I'll put this here for you guys. Experimental Hexblade. I did build this on PvE, and honestly, it's very rare to use the Overdrive passive effectively on Gnar. You won't really get much value from it because we can only use our ult in Mega, and that makes it where we can't really get the value that we would really want from it. We get the attack speed. Like the only situation I could really see it is if you ult and then you turn straight to mini Gnar and you can utilize the attack speed and movement speed, but that's like just too rare of an occurrence. Like, so I mean, it technically gives you the stats that you need, so that's why I put it under maybe. So yeah, you can try it if you want. I personally would not build it though. And then I put Eclipse here because this item no longer gives lethality. It gives all base AD with ability haste, and then it still gives you the additional damage and shield. So this could honestly be a very decent item on Gnar. I might have to do some testing with it, but I'm gonna put in maybe for now because I'm not 100% sure. I could definitely see this being a thing though. The only thing that doesn't make it as an item for Gnar is that it does not have health. I think if this had health, this would be a very decent item on Gnar. And then next we have Hollow Radiance and Unending Despair. This is basically the new, well, this is a new Sunfire item. And then basically they both do damage. And, well, the Hollow Radiance does damage, and then Unending Despair does healing. I personally probably would not build these though, but they're new tank items, so that's why I put them under maybe. If there's tank items that give the stats that Gnar needs, like the health resistances and damage or ability haste, I'm probably gonna add it. So yeah, they're here. I will have to do some testing with these as well, as I'm not 100% sure. And then lastly, Snowball for fun. I would not recommend this in ranked, but if you're playing for fun, trying to have a good time, then here's some items that I would suggest if you want to play aggressively or for fun. I think Bloodthirster is very fun if you just want to consistently push, consistently harass, and just bully the enemy top laner, because the damage that you get above, I think it's 70% HP, and the lifesteal is elite. It's so much fun. You feel like an Irelia sometimes doing this. Titanic Hydra did get a change. It sadly no longer scales with HP, so rip Heartsteel Titanic Hydra, but you can still do amazing on-hit builds with this. Like I said earlier, with Runons and Rageblade, I think that those three items are one of the best on-hit effects in the game for Gnar. So for on-hit builds, Titanic Hydra is still pretty good. And then of course, Ravenous Hydra, I don't think the stacks anymore, so it might be a little bit more reliable. So if you want an item that does a ton of damage and also heals you with the ability haste that you need, with the wave clear, you can build this for fun. Bork could be an item that we build, but it sadly just doesn't give the HP that we need. It does very good damage, and it's very good against tanks. So if you want an item that can help you kite, then this is pretty good. And then Rageblade is still very, very fun. Like the stacking is very, very good. It gives you the AD, AP, attack speed. So on-hit builds be very fun with Rageblade. Like I said, with Titanic and Runons is very good. I think this is the orange one. That's my bad. Yeah, here's the real one. It doesn't give 50 damage or 50 ability power, 50... whatever it is, 40 damage. Here's the real one. Yeah, there's some Ornn items just in this thing over here, and I just didn't really look at it that much. So yeah, there's that. And like I said, Runons very, very good. I explained earlier why it was good in my opinion. You can get tons of tempo with it as well. and honestly just a good for fun item. And then lastly, I think Phantom Dancer can be a very good for fun item, especially I think it's very good with lethal tempo. Like the stacking that you can get with it gives you a ton of attack speed, and then the ghosting effect with the movement speed is just also very, very fun. Alright, that is all of the items done. I'm sorry this took a while, but I just wanted to explain everything thoroughly. TLDR, D-Blade best starting item, Cold Boots best back in my opinion with Phage or tier 2 boots. Core items are Trinity Force, Black Cleaver, Sterex Gauge, and Hullbreaker, and yeah, that's basically the basics. So now that we are finished with all the items, let's get straight to the runes. Alright, so we are in the rune section of the Gnar guides. So basically the runes are going to be very, very simple. It's basically the same as last season. They didn't really do any changes to the runes. However, I did see online that like the little thing, like these things over here, like the armor and stuff, like these are getting a little bit of changes. So in the future, I will, of course, make a video on it if that does happen. So if that does get changed, look out for that. But anyways, that is not the point right now. 14.1, this is what it is. So let's focus on patch 14.1. So the best Gnar runes, in my opinion, this is the standard set: Fleet Footwork, Triumph, Alacrity, Last Stand, Bone Plating, and Overgrowth. So Fleet Footwork is very, very good because you don't really have any sustain with Gnar's kit. Fleet is what really gives you that sustain that you need. You only really get the effect of healing on camps, champions, and towers. You do not get the healing on minions really. You get maybe like 3 or 4 HP from the minions. Maybe later game you get a little bit more. So focus on hitting champions, camps, and towers to get the effect of healing. And then another reason why this is really good is because of the movement speed that you do get. It helps you kite more in mini Gnar. Triumph is really good because whenever you get kills, you heal your HP, and then you also get 20 extra gold, so you get like the flat 300 gold basically. And Triumph is just very reliable, especially in team fights. The healing is very, very huge. I like Alacrity because it just gives you that extra attack speed. It gives you extra DPS. I think it's better than the other. I think it's better than Bloodline Tenacity. However, Tenacity can be a decent option if you need Tenacity against CC in the game. So you can either go Alacrity or Tenacity, but I prefer Alacrity. And then out of Coup de Grace, Cut Down, and Last Stand, I just think Last Stand is the most reliable and valuable. And then secondary, I like to go Resolve. There's many different paths you could go here, but I see the most common one being Bone Plating just because it's the most reliable, and Overgrowth. Bone Plating basically can give you a second chance in a lot of situations, especially in tough matchups. And then Overgrowth just gives you the extra HP you need in the mid game because you are very low HP, especially if you don't build any HP items. You have one of the lowest HP stats in the game, so that's why Overgrowth is really good. And then I'll talk about the other ones as well. Demolish can be very good in pushing lanes. Like if you're going against a scaling champ like a Nasus or Kel, I could see it being good. But honestly, you don't even need to go Demolish a lot of times because Sheen proc is broken enough, let's be honest. And then with the addition of Void Grubs, you can take towers easier. Of course, towers have a little bit more HP, so maybe you would like to take Demolish because of that, but yeah. That is my reasoning why to take Demolish, but I would still prefer Bone Plating over it. I think Conditioning is decent for the scaling armor and magic resist. The problem is you do lose out on a Second Wind or a Bone Plating in lane, which is infinitely more valuable than a Conditioning. I ran Conditioning for half of last season, and as soon as I switched to Bone Plating, kid you not, I climbed the diamonds. So I don't know if it makes that little bit of difference. I don't think it did. I think it's just the way I changed the style of gameplay, but who knows, maybe that little difference actually helped me climb the diamonds. So, I mean, it does give you multiple more chances in lane. This doesn't really, this doesn't overtake in value until after lane. So, it's up to preference at the end of the day. You can try it, but I still prefer Bone Plating. Second Wind is good against champs that poke you. I think champs, especially with range top laning coming a lot, I could see Second Wind being used more. Also think it's good against champs like Gangplank just because they poke you a ton. They're kind of ranged as well. But I still think Bone Plating is just the best option here. Revitalize could technically be good, but I just don't think it'll give you the reliability and valuable things like Overgrowth does. And then Unflinching could be good if you're going against CC, but I would still prefer Overgrowth and then just take Tenacity over here if you need that, or even just build a Merc Treads. So yeah, those are the basic runes. And then here we go attack speed. Like I said, this could get changed, but for now on patch 14.1, I would just go damage and then either the armor and magic resist that you need. If you don't know who you're going against, you can go the health scaling, but armor and magic resist probably just going to be the best depending on matchup. And those are the basic runes. I will be talking over other runes. I do not recommend this, but if you have a more of a snowbally playstyle, then secondary you can go domination and go taste the blood and treasure hunters, so you could try to get extra gold on takedowns. But I would not rely on this because top lane you're not going to get a lot of takedowns until the mid game, so I would probably just not rely on this. But if you're more of a snowbally player, then you could try this. Grasp and precision is also an option, but I definitely would not recommend going this, especially since how broken Fleet is right now. Maybe if Fleet gets a nerf, we could switch to Grasp, but for now, I think Fleet is better, but this is something I would run on Grasp if I want Grasp, just something like this. And then Phase Rush, I think, is one of the most underrated runes on Gnar. I think this is very good against champs with the slows. Like, I like to build Swifties with this against champs like Darius, Nasus, champs that are just going to run you down with their ghost, or champs that have very, very big slows. I think Phase Rush is just honestly elite against them. It actually gives you a chance to kite them out and actually fight them instead of them just slowing you and just 100 to 0 you in a couple seconds. So I like to go just the movement speed things here, and then you could either choose against Water Walking and Gathering Storm. I think Gathering Storm is pretty good just because of the scaling AD that you get. And yeah, that is Phase Rush. I will talk about Hail of Blades just because it technically can be an option. If you want like more of a bursty playstyle, I could see you going Hail of Blades. I personally do not like it, but this is something I would run if I went Hail of Blades. And then this says Hail of Blades, but this is in reality Lethal Tempo. I think Lethal Tempo is more of a for fun rune, but if you like the on-hit style of Gnar better, I think this is an excellent rune to go. And then you could technically run any rune if you just want to play for fun. But the last rune that I will talk about is Conqueror. If you can hit all your abilities, then this is technically the best rune, right? If you're confident in Mega Gnar, then Conqueror is probably one of the better runes if you're one-checking. But I just still think Fleet is more reliable because of the healing and movement speed that you get. But if you prefer Conqueror, then go for it. Alright, that is basically it with the runes. I'm not going to go every single rune because realistically Fleet is the best and everything else just isn't as reliable or just as good. So I would just stick with Fleet. That is probably the best thing to go. Alright, this is the runes section finished. Now we're going to get into practice tool, and I'm going to show you guys abilities and then combos. Basically, just the basics how to play Gnar, so let's get straight to it. Alright, welcome to the basic abilities section of the Gnar guide. So this is where we'll start getting into gameplay. First, I want to go over abilities, and then shortly we'll go after combos. But of course, we have to go over what you should level up first, of course. So this is the basics of it. First, you want to do Q. However, in certain matchups, you can go E just to be a little bit safer. But the basics is Q. I like to go E second, and then W, and then you just upgrade Q first. Get R whenever you can, of course, and then you just upgrade W second, E third, and then R last. Or yeah, of course, upgrade R whenever you can, obviously. But basic upgrade order: Q, W, E, R. That's the basics. Alright, so anytime before a game, I'm just gonna give this little tip here. I saw Thing in the Ice do this. I always like to place target enemy dummies over here and then practice all of my abilities and combos on these guys right here next to the wall. So thank you, Thing in the Ice. I've always been practicing because of him ever since in practice tool, ever since I saw him do it, because he's a person that liked to theorize builds a ton. So I really am thankful for Thing in the Ice for that. And yeah, let's get straight into the abilities for Gnar. So Gnar's passive is obviously his rage. Whenever you attack something, you have a rage bar, it will go up. Earlier in the game, it won't go up as much, but since I did level myself up to 18, we will just go up higher naturally. And basically, in Mini Gnar, you get extra range, attack speed, and movement speed. And then whenever you transform to Mega Gnar, that's when you get more health, armor, magic resist, and damage. And of course, this is all scaling with level. You actually get more range with Gnar early, so if you're level 1, this will be a ton shorter. So a tip I can honestly give is to always hold C so you always see your range. I should have showed that whenever I was leveling up earlier. But basically, if you just go in the practice tool and then level yourself up over here with this, what this says level up, if you hold C, you'll see your range go up little by little each level. So that's why I recommend holding C, so you know where you can attack, kite, auto, etc. Practice this in practice tool, you'll get used to it. And the more you play, you'll get used to it. So yeah, that is basically Gnar's passive. So Gnar technically has 8 different abilities. 4 in Mini, 4 in Mega, so we will go through it. The most basic ability is Q, the boomerang. Basically, Q is a boomerang that if you throw it and you hit it, you'll hit them dealing damage. And it also slows. It also leaves a mark for your W hyper. We'll get to that in a second. This item is very good, and we max this first because of the low cooldown that you get with it here. And if you catch it, it's basically on like a 3-second cooldown, so very elite. I will show a trick here really quickly. If, like, let's say enemy backing under tower right here, you could throw it backwards. Just wait a second, move out of the way, and then you can stop their back with that. That's a good way to use Q. That is more of a rare occasion, so I wouldn't worry too much about that like at first, but after you play a couple games, you can get the practice tool and practice that a little bit. And yeah, that is the basics of Boomerang. Next is Gnar's Mini W Hyper. Basically, Hyper, every single time you auto 3 times, you get movement speed and you deal magic damage. Sorry, you might hear Pugsley in the background. She is walking around my room. But yeah, you can also proc Hyper with your Q and your Mini E hop, and then an auto. So Hyper can be procced with auto, Q, or E. And yeah, that is the basics of Hyper. Very good for kiting. It's very similar to Vayne W, except for true damage, it just does magic damage and it gives you movement speed. That's the basics that I can say with it. Next is Mini Gnar's E Hop. Hop is one of your most important abilities because it has the longest cooldown, level 1, and you max this last, and it's very important. Basically, you can just hop anywhere. If you hop on something like an enemy, you can jump over it. Let me auto refresh. You can hop on minions. So whenever you're going to lane, you get the lane faster. If there's minions coming with you, like right here, you could use hop. Hop does damage, and of course Hop can proc W. Hop also gives you attack speed. Riot gave Hop more attack speed to try to make you be more aggressive with it, which has helped a ton. And it also slows, so it does a lot of things. It may not seem like it does a lot of things, but it actually does a lot of things. Another important thing is that you can hop over walls with it. I think one of the more important hops is right here at Baron. This is a very good hop to do if you want to get the Rift Herald or Baron faster, even Void Grubs faster. But yeah, what I recommend with hop is to go around the map in practice tool and then just practice hopping over walls. Just like this. It will help you a ton in situations and games. If you like let's say it's late game, you could hop over this and get a good ultimate here in the mid lane. Just like I said, teleport around the map, practice your hops over walls, and you should be good to go. It's pretty simple. Like, we can even hop over this wall, which is elite. So yeah, just go around practice tool, practice your hops or crunches. Okay, that is Mini Gnar's hop. Next is Mini Gnar's R. Not a lot of people know this, but Mini Gnar actually has an R. It is arguably one of the more broken ones, in my opinion, because it increases Hyper's movement speeds, and it increases it by 40% level 1, level 3 80%. Like, that is crazy in my opinion. You're almost doubling Hyper's movement speed level 3 ultimate. Like, that is crazy. Like, it feels like we're doing more than a ghost effect every 3 autos or every time you proc Hyper. So I honestly think it's one of the more sleeper OP ults in the game, and people do not realize how good it is. So yeah, that is Gnar's Mini R. Alright, now we're going to go to the Mega abilities. So Mega Gnar's Q is basically the same as Boomerang, except it's a boulder. It does not come back, but if you go pick it up, it will reduce its cooldown. I say this every time, it's very similar to Olaf Q. You pick it up, you can use it again. It does more damage than Boomerang, and it also slows. Yeah, just a basic damage slowing ability. Next is Mega Gnar's W, Wallop. Basically, if you press W, you can stun anyone, and it does damage. That is the basics of it. You can use this to go in with animation cancels and with very important combos, which we will get to after the abilities. Next is Mega Gnar's Crunch, which is his E in Mega Gnar. So basically, I'm going to show you here. You can use it like this to double bounce in Mega Gnar, but that is the only time you can use it to double bounce as you're transforming. I'll show you in a second after it comes off cooldown, because you cannot double bounce with it after it gets off cooldown like you can in Mini Gnar. You can only use it as a crunch, as it says. So only whenever you're transforming you can use it. Basically, if you hit the ability, it does damage and it slows. And then next is Gnar's R. This is also an ability you can animation cancel with, but basically if you hit your R on the wall, it will stun and do a ton more damage. As you see right there, it does almost 800 damage with my full build. And then if we don't hit them on the wall, it does 500 damage. So it definitely does a lot more damage if you do hit them on the wall. And then of course it also stuns them for a couple of seconds. So of course in combos this is going to be very important, and in team fights. So yeah, that is all of Gnar's abilities. Now that we are finished with the abilities, we shall go over the combos that Gnar uses. So first we'll start with mini Gnar combos. There's only really one combo, let's be honest. It's just basically Q auto E and you can get hyper instantly. I didn't get it there here, I'll show you properly. There you go. That's basically the only combo. You can E, Q, auto. That's basically it. Nothing more special with mini Gnar. So for Mega Gnar combos, I'm gonna show you the very basic one first. I'm not gonna do any animation cancels. I'm gonna wait until we get fully into Mega Gnar. So let me transform. So basically, I'm just gonna show you a very simple combo. I'm gonna show you with E first. You basically EN, auto, R, auto, Q, auto, W, auto, Q, auto, etc. But cooldowns are off, so that's not a good example. But basically, what I'm trying to say, the basics of combos in Mega Gnar is whenever you go in, after each ability, you want to weave in autos. Now, I know you can't weave in autos against every champion, especially against champions that have slowing effects or slows down your attack speed. I can understand that it's difficult to weave in your autos, so if that's the case, just use your abilities. But in most cases, you want to try to weave in your autos. So I'm just gonna show you a basic Mega Gnar combo. I'll do it right here, just so it isn't as confusing with all of the target dummies. I'll do it just with one. I'll show you really quickly just one basic combo. And I'll type in screen like the exact combo, but I'll show it here. And that is the basic combo right there. So basically, first, you want to try to get an animation cancel. I will explain animation cancels right now. Basically, for animation cancels, you do it as you're transforming with your crunch from mini to Mega Gnar. And basically, you just want to spam R as you're doing that. Like right here, as soon as you're transforming, you can E, and as soon as you're Eing, you can R, and you can get an animation cancel, which is very, very cool. You can do this with your W and R. The best way to get better at this is simply come into Practice Tool and do this exactly as I'm doing, and just practice your animation cancels. After each transformation, just fast forward the game 30 seconds, get your Mega Gnar back. You can even build a Runon's, Rage Blade, and Titanic to get your Rage faster and do it more quickly that way to save more time to practice your animation cancels more. But yeah, just do this in Practice Tool, practice getting your animation cancels on your W and your R. And yeah, that is pretty much the basics of animation cancels. I can't really tell you like how to get better. The only thing I could tell you is to come in here and Practice Tool and practice it yourself, because learning yourself is the best way. There's like no really like great way I can tell you how to get good at animation cancels besides practicing them and playing more. So yeah, that is the basic combo with Mega Gnar. Of course, you don't have to do it with animation cancels. I'll do one really quickly without animation cancels if you are having trouble with it. So let's say you're in lane here and the enemy's here. You can simply throw your Q and then go in, auto, W auto, R auto, Q auto, something like that. It doesn't have to be that exact order. If you need to ult first, cool. If you think Wing first is better, cool. Just that's the basic combo, and then again, weaving autos in between each ability is most important. And yeah, I hope I didn't make that too confusing. Just go into Practice Tool, practice yourself, and you will understand as soon as you get the hang of it. So yeah, that is the combos for Gnar finished. Alright, so in this section of the video, I am going to be talking about early game macro and of course mid-late game macro. First I want to talk about early game macro. I'll get into wave management and stuff after this section. So terms that you may not be familiar with, I'll describe that later. But first, basically you want to identify if you're having a winning or losing lane. First I'll go over winning lanes. If you have a winning lane, of course the objective is to control the wave very well, and I'll get into how to do that later. But basically, let's say the wave is pushing, and you could do this either by slow pushing, full on pushing, just depending on the game. Every game is different. But let's say you push the wave Of course, you're not going to have ult early, but let's just say you push the wave. Your main objective is to get vision, so you get reaction time to the jungler. Of course, this right here is going to be an amazing ward, because this will give you reaction time right here in the river. And then a ward right here is also good, it gives you even more reaction time. Junglers can no longer wrap around this bush because there's a big wall right here, so this is pretty much the only option they have, unless they walk into lane on either side into these bushes right here. Those are their only options realistically now, unless they can jump this entire big wall, which most champs can't do. I could see Kayn being able to do it, but not many champs can do that now, can they? So right here is one of the best wards early game. In early game, your main focus is to get good state of the wave, which I'll talk about later, and to help your jungler. Basically, jungler is going to come top a lot more because void grubs are going to spawn here very early. And I'm sure there's going to be fights and enemy jungle and then your jungle. And I'm sure there's still going to be fights over scuttled crab like there's always is. So your main objective is, if you have a pushing lane, a winning lane, you want to get vision for reaction time to junglers. And you also want to pay attention to the map, look at the map very carefully, and see if your jungler ever needs help in skirmishes and the early game. That's the basics of if you have a winning lane and you're pushing. Now, let's say you have a losing lane. Let's say you're going against Irelia. I think Irelia is the best option. Early game, you can win technically, I guess, if you dodge everything. But there's a point at time where Irelia can just build a Bork and then point and click you and kill you. So let's say you're in a losing lane and you're getting pushed towards you. What do? Well, Gnar is basically one of the safest champs in the game to farm with because our boomerang, we can stay back and Q, but obviously this allows the Irelia to go get wards for reaction time and roam first. In losing matchups, there's not much that you can do but react to what the enemy top laner is doing. No matter what, if the top laner is better than you and they have a winning matchup, they're gonna win. You have to try your hardest to stay even and react to what they do accordingly. So let's say enemy top is pathing top, you have a losing lane, they're pushing into you. Of course, two things are gonna happen. They're still gonna push into you and they're gonna go roam and get vision, or they're going to go help their jungler get the objective on the map or help the skirmish. So what do you do here? You have to react accordingly. If you have a wave under tower and they're roaming, you have to use your pings. Use your question mark pings, use your get off pings, caution. Pinging is very useful. That is one thing you can do. As soon as you push the wave in, if the skirmish is still happening, you can maybe roam. But communication is key. If you cannot get to the objective or the skirmish in time, ping it. And then, yeah, like I said, if you are in a losing lane, just react accordingly. That is the best advice I can give. So that is basically early game macro. Now, I'm going to talk about some mid game macro now. I'm going to talk about warding first. So this can be vice versa, either if you're on red side, blue side. I'm going to talk about some good aggressive wards that you can get. Now, the map is a little bit different, but of course, just getting vision on any of the camps is good. So if you can get a ward on any of the camps is good. They did move Krugs in the bush a little bit, so I'm not 100% sure warding this will capture Krugs, so you might have to go a little bit deeper and get Krugs yourself with a ward if you want to see if they're on Krugs. But yeah, like I said, any of these bushes here I think is good. Deeper the better, but if you can get the camps, it's also excellent. This bush for mid lane, of course, is good. And then Raptors is one of the more popular early game wards, just to see where the jungler is pathing. But mid game, just getting wards, any deep vision like right here, any deep vision up here is very, very good. And vice versa. If we go down here, let's say we need even defensive wards is good. Like this is a good defensive ward, but if we're playing aggressive, this is a decent ward. I like putting a ward here so like I can get vision on blue buff and Gromp. And then, like I said, getting wards on any camps is good, any bushes is good, and the deeper, like I said, the better. If you get vision right here or even vision down here is decent. Like just getting aggressive wards, deep wards is very, very good. And then vice versa for defensive wards, aggressive wards, you get the idea. So mid game, this is where you probably will switch lanes. Now this is very complicated, so I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible. You will most likely be going to bot lane in most games because it's just how the game works. It's just the transition of the flow of the game. And basically your job mid-game is to push waves, try to get prio, and try to get vision around objectives, and then try to make picks. That is basically what you want to do when you're ahead. If you're behind, like I said, just try to react accordingly to the top laner. That's all you can do whenever you're behind or have a losing matchup. But in the mid-game, if you're ahead, like vitally you want to be ahead and you want to try to get vision, try to get picks, and yeah, that's the basics of it. Now bot lane is a little bit different. There's like a lot of things over here on this side. So I would just say warding in any of the bushes is good, because there's a ton. Of course, this ward right here for Gromp and Blue is still good. Just getting deep vision up here is still good. Even over here is decent now. But yeah, one tip I can give is, it's a basic tip, but always go to the lane where no one is in. Let's say it's mid game, your bot lanes went mid. You probably either have two options, top or bot. Usually you like to funnel the gold to the player that's most likely to hyper carry the game. That usually isn't top lane, but let's say bot lane took their tower, they went mid, and mid lane's still relatively ahead. They would probably want to go top lane, and then you would probably want to go to the empty lane, which is usually bot lane. But try to just go to the empty lane so you can get minions, XP, gold. That's just the basics of it. That's how I look at it. So if you see other people in the other lanes, just go to the empty lane. That's probably your best bet. And then preferably you want to be in the lane that, one, gives you the best preferable matchup so it doesn't make your life miserable. And then two, you want to go in the lane where the opposite main objective is up. Or what I should say, you need to be in the lane where opposite where the objective is up. That's what I'm trying to say. Because we do take TP. TP is one of the main spells that we take. So let's say Baron is up. I know this is Rift, but let's say Baron is up and Dragon is down. Where would you want to go? You would want to go bot lane because you can TP up to top lane anytime to join that fight. And that's vice versa. If you're in top lane and Dragon or Elder is up, then you will have TP to go to that. Very, very simple. If you think about it like that, that's a very simple way to go. But always go to the empty lane so you're not missing XP and gold. That is the basics of it. So that is basic mid-game macro. Push in the lane, try to get vision, be on the opposite side of the main objective, and be in the empty lane pretty much at most times. Because top lane, you are going to be split pushing a lot. So late game macro is basically the same as mid-game macro. But late game, we can of course get Baron, and we are going to be grouping a lot more. So of course, you're always going to have to match top laner if they go to side lane. That's just how it's going to be, especially against split pushers. But there's also times where you have to go group for team fights, basically whenever a dragon comes up. Basically, if you're going against a split pushing top laner, you will have to be careful and always remember that you have to match them. But if you're going against like a Malphite that's pretty much always going to team fight and won't get as much value in side lanes, you always want to remember to go to the team fights. But even then, if you're going against a Malphite, you could play the role of the split pusher with Trinity Force and go play the side lanes. I would mainly play side lanes whenever you think you need towers to win the game. And then I would join team fights when you think you need team fights to win the game. It sounds silly and very simple, like duh, yeah, that's what you should do, but that's the reality of it. And basic late game macro is, especially whenever you have Baron, you most of the time want to be in the opposite lane of your team, of course, because you could still have TP. Let's say you get Baron and all these towers up here are taken, all top lane towers are taken, you would then most likely want to go bot so you could take all of these towers, and then your mid lane everyone else should go. And then basically late game, all you have to do is look at map. If people are not on the map, if you don't have vision on them, you basically just want to stay back. I would stay in the bushes, stay closer to your towers. And then once you see them on the map again, you can go up, push the waves and push again. And then yeah, that is basically what you want to do. But with Baron, go to the towers that you have not taken yet. And then if let's say all of top and mid's taken, your team most likely wants the 5-man bot to get all of these towers. And then you want to try to get all the lanes even, top, mid, and bot. So only push whenever your team is pushing, because if not, you're going to just get caught out and die. So if mid wave is still here at tower, but you're pushing up here with bot lane, and top wave is also uneven, the enemy team has an easy way to get to you here. If mid lane is all the way here, and then you're pushing with your wave all the way up here, that's going to be easy access to you since their jungle is so much more open. You cannot push like that unless the waves are even and you have vision. So I know that may sound complicated, but I recommend looking up late game macro guides, and it'll explain it better than I am. I'm explaining it probably very horribly, but that is the basics that I know. So the basics of late game macro is to always look at the map and identify what is the best lane to push, and if you should group with your team or not. That is the basics of it. Getting picks, of course, is a big one, so that's why I say getting vision and looking at the map is very, very crucial. I hope I did not make that too confusing. If I did, please give me questions down below. I will try to help you as best as possible. And yeah, the best tip I can give is to simply look at the map and yeah, ward and try to get picks and go to the towers that you need to take the most to get pressure on the map. So that is the basics of macro. Please let me know down below if you need any explanations on that. And then next we are going to go into wave management. Alright, so in this section of the video, I want to talk a little bit about wave management. So every game, of course, is going to be different, but I'm going to talk about the basics of wave management. I recommend looking up a guide for wave management if you want the exacts and specifics on wave management, but I'm just going to show this in practice tool as every game is different. I can't like go into a game and explain everything I want to explain in one specific game because everything is different. So I'm just going to show you the basics. So on Gnar, what you really want to do is push. I will show you this first example first as it's the most common. If you have a good matchup and you can push, then this is what you want to do most games. Now I will also show slow pushing, fast pushing, freezing, just the basics of wave management. So hopefully you get a little bit of an understanding of Gnar. Now wave management can technically be more difficult with Gnar because you have one of the lower HP stats early game. So early game it may be hard to control a wave against more of the meta champs. So I'm just going to try to show you the basics. Try not to worry about it too much. You'll get better over time. So I'll show you the basics. So the first example I'm going to show you in this practice tool is fast pushing. So basically what I want to do whenever I know enemy top laner is not in lane and is in jungle, I like to queue the last 3 minions and then just auto the wave. This is what I like to do. I like to fight for level 2 early because you can get an amazing trade off with your E and Q level 2. So this is what I do. I just like to hit the wave. So this example, of course, is fast pushing. This is what I like to do. Most of the time I like to get wave control. And then a lot of the time, at this point, you can just slow push the wave. So slow pushing is good because you have the wave advantage. Look how many more minions you have than the enemy. If they try to fight you, you're pretty much always going to win. So at this point, I would like to level up my E and then continue slow pushing. And then if they step up, you can simply E, Q, auto them, and you'll most likely win the trade. And you can continue slow pushing here, and then you'll have the wave bounce out of the tower. And then guess what you can do here? Like I said earlier with macro, you can go and get wards for reaction time. So let's say you go push the ward, you can go back up, and then you can go back to harassing, CSing, etc. So that is basically the basics of fast pushing the wave early. That is what I like to do the most. And of course, if you're ahead, you can continue doing this and getting plates. So that is the first example of fast pushing with Gnar. Alright, so after fast pushing, I'm going to a lot of practice tools for this, guy. Sorry, I have to reset the game every time. It is what it is. So basically after fast pushing, I'm going to show the next example. So the question you may ask, so that's how you fast push, but how do you play safe and how do you get the wave on your side? So you can't do this every game, but if you can pull the wave so it will always push towards you. And of course the easiest way for the wave to push towards you if they simply hit it themselves and they push it towards you, which is excellent in some matchups. But I'm going to show you the basic way to get the wave pulled to you pretty much every time. So you may ask, why would you even do this in the first place? Well, if you have a matchup where you can't necessarily stay up here a ton, like let's say you get ran down by like a Darius or something, you would want the wave to go towards your side. So basically you just have to get attention of the minions, and then as they hit you, walk into the bush. And then as you see, they'll all focus on a minion and then they'll just kill the minions faster. And then, yeah, this is how you can get the wave to push to your side. Now, I didn't do it the best there, obviously. I think you can get a little bit closer to the middle, but you get the basics there, right? So it may not look like much right now, but I will fast forward it, and over time you will see that the wave will slow push to me. And as you can see, slowly but surely, the red minions are winning. So if you ever want the wave to push towards you, just simply grab a hold of the wave early. Of course, you can't do this every game because the enemy top laner is going to be in wave, but you can mainly do it whenever they're leeching. So keep an eye on that. And then, yeah, that's basically how you do that. So what next comes into mind? How do you freeze? So basically, you just need a little bit more minions on their side than yours. I like to keep around 3 to 4. Gnar can't really keep a freeze anyway, so having 3 to 4 is good. You can't keep the freeze the entire game. It's quite difficult on Gnar. Maybe on a champ like Fiora you can, but
On Gnar it is a little bit more difficult, but you basically just want more minions than you want more minions on their side than your side. So I'm gonna take a ton of damage here, but I'm gonna show you really quickly. And this right here is why you never fight in big minion waves, by the way. You see how much damage I just took. Basically, you want 3 to 4 minions more on their side than your side. So you can do this by easily counting. I'm trying to clear this still. So after I kill one more right here, this is about what you would want for a freeze right about... Hold on, I can get it perfect. Like right about here, this is good. You basically just want to have the minions hit you and then make sure they don't go on a tower. And then right here, you can create a freeze. This isn't going to freeze every time, but as long as you have the wave on this side, it is very good. And then you'll always have the wave right here. And then eventually the wave will probably bounce, and then you can just slow push and get the bigger wave. You always want to fight in the bigger waves, never fight in the bigger waves that they have. That is the best advice I can give, because 100% you will lose even if you are ahead, believe it or not. In most situations. Of course, there's some situations, but yeah. Just make sure they have more minions than you. You can keep the freeze, but I don't like to keep freezes because I like to play with tempos, so I like to eventually push it, and then you will eventually get a bigger wave like this, and then that is an advice I can give. Now, I'm going to give another advice. It isn't necessarily about wave management, but it is a good tip with Mega Gnar in my opinion, so I'm going to show it to you right now. Okay. So I'm going to show you this really quickly in Mega Gnar. I just fast forward the game just to get a little bit fast forward. Hopefully the wave will finally push towards me, because yeah, I'm having a little bit of trouble with that. But basically, in Mega Gnar, I think there's a tip that not many of you know, but I think it's very useful. Especially with waves like you never think you can fight in, but you do end up fighting in. So I'm just trying to get into Mega Gnar quicker. Okay, so basically, I'm going to let this push out, but basically, in a wave that you think is way big, most people can't fight in. But in reality, in Mega Gnar, you can't fight in it. Like, look at this wave. You probably never want to fight in this because it's just bigger, right? Well, it's not that much bigger, but you get my point. So what you can do in Mega Gnar, whenever you transform, you can go in and just ult the wave, and usually the enemy's right here at the wave, and you ult them and you can one-shot the wave. Look at that, baby. You see me do that in some games sometimes. But yeah, that's one of the better tips I can give, especially if you're engaging in Mega Gnar, to decrease the wave size so you can win the trades more reliably. So that is a tip I can give in Mega Gnar. So yeah. And yeah, honestly, that's the basics of top lane wave management. So basically, you're gonna, if you want to, you can push the wave in, and then it'll just crash here, and then it's basically the same on both sides. Like, you're gonna slow push it this way if you're gonna play for denying the minions, because slow pushing is the best way to do that. Slow pushing the entire time is gonna go into their tower, and then vice versa. If they want to slow push it, they're gonna slow push it, and then you probably want to stay back and farm safely because they have the bigger minion wave, unless you're in Mega Gnar, like I just said. And that's the basics of top lane, basically. I recommend looking up videos on again, wave management and stuff, top lane wave. I'm sure many videos talk about it, but yeah, that's the basics of wave management. If you have any questions, let me know down below, because I know my explanations are confusing, but that is the basics of wave management. So now I'm just going to talk about some extra tips that you can do in lane. Whenever you attack enemy champion, of course enemy champions here, let's say you're attacking enemy champion. Will it work with dummy? Actually, let me look. It does work with dummies, so if you attack them and then the minions start attacking you, simply what you can do, walk in the bush, and then they'll stop attacking you. Very good tip to take less damage whenever you're poking. That is a very good tip. And of course, like I said, always hold C in Mini Gnar. I guess I can show it now. Every time you level up, your range will increase, so just to manage your range. And then honestly, the best tip I can give out of them all is to simply practice and play more. I know it sounds crazy. That's the most simple thing you do, is simply play more, but it's honestly the best way you can get better. Another way I can get better is watching higher elo people, like pro gameplay. I will actually link down below full gameplays of every Gnar matchup. This channel is elite. I use it whenever I have trouble with matchups. It basically shows high elo players showing what they do in matchups, if they play safe, if they wait for jungle, if they play for jungle, if they push the wave, etc. So I recommend looking at that channel for every single matchup. I just went over the basics in this guide, so go to that channel and look at each matchup if you're having trouble with certain matchups, or you don't know specifically how to play each matchup. And after all of that, I think we are finally finished. Yeah, I think we are finished with the Gnar guide now. I went over everything I think I wanted to go over. I tried to make this as detailed as possible, as I want you guys to climb to your highest ranks possible. I want you guys to reach your highest potential, and I hope this can help you along the way if you're new to Gnar. And of course, I added extra things like the macro and stuff. I just wanted to help people that don't really know that much about macro, but I 100% recommend looking up videos. And of course, I will link videos in the description, like the Gnar channel and other guide videos that will help you with your basic climbs or basic knowledge. So yeah, that is it for the Gnar guide. I hope you guys all enjoyed watching. Again, if you have any questions, please let me know down below. And I probably will make an updated version of this later, as I'm sure things will definitely change, as I'm not 100% sure on every single thing in this video, since, you know, maps did get changed a ton and items are a little bit different. But yeah, that is the basics. Also, I want to say sorry if anything was confusing, and be sure, like, I know I've said this many times in this video, but be sure to comment down below if you have any questions. I'm not afraid to answer them. And yeah, that's it. That is the Season 14 Gnar guide. I hope you guys enjoyed, and best of luck on all your Season 14 grinds and climbs. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I love you guys forever and always. Bye bye.